We're going to be talking about the Avoider Saboteur tonight. I'm not sure if you know what saboteurs are tonight, but I'm going to introduce you to that concept at least, and then talk to you about one of the saboteurs, which is the avoider. And I happen to know something about the avoider because I definitely have that one in my life. So I'm Vinny. I'm a counselor and a coach, and I've helped thousands of people to find happiness and joy, and primarily finding that in and through Jesus, Jesus being a part of their healing journey. That's what I do. And so I do these webinars once or twice a month. So if you're not on our list and you want to be on our list to find out when we do these, just drop your email into the chat and I'll make sure that you get that communication whenever we have one of these. So I have a big promise for you tonight. The big promise is that you're going to understand how to keep the avoider saboteur from sabotaging your life, and you're going to learn a lot more about the saboteur, probably more than you wanted to know. All right, we'll try to keep it simple tonight. We'll keep it short too, because it can be overwhelming when we talk about saboteurs. I'm also going to offer you a free assessment to find out which of the 10 saboteurs, because research has shown us that there are 10 saboteurs, and these 10 saboteurs really are part of our survival-based way of living in this world, and they sabotage us. Like those first 18 years, they help us. And then after that, they're not quite as helpful, but most of us get really good at using these as our skills. So we keep on using them as adults, even though they actually get in our way. So our assessment can show you which of these 10 are getting in your way the most. And so if you want to take that free assessment, you can drop your email there and we'll get that to you. I'm going to offer you also a free discovery session to help you unpack your number one saboteur. Take about a half an hour and break down that assessment, help you understand it, and also help you do something very important, which is to dream about what life would be like without that saboteur messing with you as much as it is today. So stick around to the end, because I have a special offer that I will, an offer that will help you implement whatever you learned today. So to get the most from our time, it'll be really great if you could close out anything that might distract you during our time together, and grab your phone, make sure it's on vibrate or off, and also grab a pen and a paper so that you can take some notes about what we're going to talk about tonight. And then I'm going to ask you to take a couple of deep breaths. We still have some people jumping on here. Awesome. I'm going to ask you to take just a couple of deep breaths right now. And just invite the Holy Spirit to use this time to teach you and to comfort you and help you and give you insight about the things that we're going to talk about tonight. All right. Feel free to post any comments into the chat now and throughout our time tonight. I will read all the comments myself after the meeting, even if I don't get to read them all while we're having the meeting. So it's helpful for me to hear from you and to hear how you're tracking with what I'm talking about. All right. So let's go ahead and let me just introduce myself. Some of you know me, some of you don't, but I'm Dr. Vinny. I'm from the Boston area, and I lost my mother and my stepfather to very violent deaths back in 1984. And I struggled for 9 years because I didn't know how to find true happiness. And I spun my wheels for the first 9 years in my grief, in the trauma of what happened. And I learned a lot after those 9 years, as I look back on those 9 years, and I'm still learning even today from that time where I struggled so greatly. And so I decided and felt God leading me to coach people and to counsel them through their grief and through their trauma. And so that's what I do. I've helped thousands of people learn how to work through the kinds of things we're going to talk about tonight. But I'd have to say I'm still growing. I'm not really there yet myself. And the way I know that is last year I took an assessment of my mental fitness. And here's what that assessment showed. It showed that 55% of the time my brain was working for me, and I was feeling like joy and contentment and gratitude and those kinds of things. But 45% of the time, my mind was sabotaging me, and I was feeling things like stress and anxiety and frustration and anger and disappointment. I don't know what your assessment score would look like if you took it tonight, but I'll just tell you, when I got that in my email, I was shocked, I was confused, I was angry. But I'll have to say that that assessment got my attention. And it got my attention to spend the next 6 weeks of my life after I took it doing a group called Positive Intelligence, or PQ for short. And that 6 week program had a tremendous impact on my life. And some of the things I'll share with you tonight are things that I learned in the program. But one of the things I learned in the program was that we have these things called saboteurs in our lives and inside of us. And these are 10 characters inside you that can keep you from grieving with grace if you're grieving, or helping you neutralize the trauma that you've had in your life. Or these characters will keep you from getting to your goals, will keep you getting, will keep you from getting what God has for you in your life. And I can predict what saboteurs you have by just knowing what some of your greatest natural strengths are, just having a simple conversation with you and finding out what you're good at. Because if I can find out what you're good at, I'll probably figure out how those strengths that you have can often be used against you. And so what a saboteur does is it turns some of your greatest strengths into your greatest weaknesses by having you overuse or abuse those strengths that God's given you. So for an example, the Avoider Saboteur overuses avoidance. And that has kept me in the past from dealing with things like, for me, talking about death, or dealing with people who might not be the best for me in my grief, but I'm sort of avoiding maybe having a hard conversation with people or pushing into something uncomfortable. And so those are some of the things that I noticed. And people will often ask me, what is the origin of my saboteurs? And so the thing is, I think we're all born with our greatest natural strengths. We are born in the image of God. And because of that, God has given us some wonderful natural strengths. And it's normal in a fallen world like ours to overuse and abuse our greatest strengths. And so this is what comes to us most easily. We begin to become the hammer that sees every problem as a nail, right? So my avoider always can find things to avoid because I'm really good at avoiding, right? So I'm looking for, where are all the things for me to avoid? How can I use this skill that I've developed? And so I'm always looking for those nails as in terms of my avoidance. So the challenge here is that our strength can become an idol to us. So I learned early on in life, in those first 10 years, that it would be really good if I avoided some of my feelings, because that helped me get through, to avoid difficult conversations and things like that. And what happened was that became an idol to me. I depended on that instead of depending on God to keep me safe and secure and without anxiety. So I was trying to deal with anxiety and fear on my own, and my avoider was trying to help me. So what happens here is that we can use this in place of depending on God, and we'll kind of see that as we go through our time tonight. If you want to know how strong your saboteurs are and which ones are messing with you the most, we have this free saboteur assessment. You can scan that code on there with your phone, or I'll also, you can put your email into the chat, and I'll make sure that you get our link to our website where you can take this. All right, so drop your email in the chat there if you want to take that. So let's talk about the avoider now. Here's a picture of me as an 8 to 10-year-old. I don't know exactly how old I am here, but I know that I'm definitely less than 11 years old. So I'm somewhere between 8 and 10 here. And you can see my brothers and my mom there are avoiding the mist of Niagara Falls as we're on that boat there. And you can see me, I've got like half a smile on my face, right? It's like the avoider inside of me is already there, and he's going to get stronger in the next couple of years as difficult things come into his life. And so what I want to talk about and show you is the strengths that people who have this avoider would display. So the strengths of the avoider is that we seek peace and harmony. We seek that internally with ourselves, and also externally with other people. You can see in that picture there, I'm kind of off to the side there. I'm just trying to like not be a problem or whatever. And I'm trying to smile, but trying to act like it's not a big deal, like this rain is falling on me, right? And so People like me are easygoing and even keeled. We have this kind of temperament that is easygoing, and we're also tend to be really flexible and adaptable to situations and people. And we also have a tendency to be positive and relatively non-judgmental of other people. Now, the avoider takes these strengths and pushes them, what I would say is to an extreme, where avoiding conflict becomes a way to escape important emotional tasks, especially when we're dealing with things like grief or trauma. So, how would we describe someone who has this avoider trait? So the description of the avoider is when we're focusing on positive and pleasant, but in an extreme way. And so we end up avoiding difficult and unpleasant tasks and conflicts. So after I lost my mother and my stepfather before my 11th birthday, I focused on the pleasant things in my life in an extreme way. And what I was doing, I was trying to find that missing affection because my mom wasn't there. I tried to find that in the girls my age. And I did that in an extreme way. One time I wrote down all the girls I met over those 9 years. And I was amazed at all the different ways that I tried to fill that void that was left there with these relationships with girls. What I was doing was I was avoiding the difficult feelings. I was pushing them down, and I know I had seen that my mom's first marriage didn't last, and that her second marriage actually ended her life because my stepfather took her life. And so I started to learn to avoid conflict at all costs because I realized one conflict in her life broke up her and my dad's marriage. And then now she had conflict with my stepfather and she ended up dying because of that. So I learned to avoid conflict at all costs because of this. Some common behaviors are avoiding conflict here, saying yes to things that I don't want to do, or downplaying real problems that may come up. And so this avoidance might feel like it's maintaining balance and it's keeping the peace, but actually what it's doing is actually creating more anxiety underneath. You see that? Because the more I push things down, the more I avoid them. It's kind of like taking a beach ball and pushing it under the water. Eventually, that beach ball is really going to pop out of the water, and it's going to pop out in maybe a place that we didn't expect. All right. So I see someone put in the chat there. I can't believe how much I can relate to this. So thank you for that feedback. That's really helpful. Let me see. We got to let one more person in here from the waiting room. So if you find yourself procrastinating on things that are hard or using your comforting routines to distract yourself, then that is probably the avoider at work. And so I want to ask, how many of you have caught yourself putting off hard conversations or tasks, thinking, yeah, I'll do it later? If that's you, drop me a yes in the chat if that sounds familiar. All right, someone just said totally. Anybody else? Does that resonate with anybody else? I'll do it later. All right. So let's talk about the thoughts that come with this avoider saboteur, because our saboteurs actually are the things in our lives that actually generate a lot of our negative thoughts. I don't know if you knew that. So the thoughts of the avoider are this. This is just too unpleasant. Maybe if I let it go, it will take care of itself. Or if I deal with this now, I will hurt her feelings. So I'd rather not do that. So I'm not going to do it. If I get into a conflict with others, I'll lose my connection with them. Or I found balance. I really don't want to mess with it. Or I'd rather give someone else their way than create a scene right now. Okay. These thoughts may feel justified in the moment, but in reality, they're going to hold us back from growing or hold us back from healing if we let these thoughts take root. So we want to challenge these thoughts. What if avoiding these tough emotions or tasks is actually preventing, or actually it's what if avoiding these things is what's actually preventing you from feeling peace and connection? What if you could feel peace and connection if you stopped avoiding things rather than avoiding them? All right. So avoidance doesn't eliminate the problem. And that's what's important for us to know tonight. It just postpones the problem. You know, when I was a kid, I pushed down all these feelings about how I felt about the death of my mother. And guess what? They popped up in suicidal thoughts, right? So as much as I tried to keep them down, that beach ball came popping up out of the water. I found myself in a counselor's office in a high-rise building in New Haven, Connecticut, trying to explain to them why I was saying what I was saying and thinking what I was thinking. So if you have thought one of these thoughts that we put on the screen tonight, give me a wave or give me a yes in the chat. Yeah. So someone that's grieving here tonight is saying that I can relate to the extent that I avoid going to certain places that my late husband and I used to frequent together. Although I can talk about him and go elsewhere, certain places that were special to us are still too painful to visit. Yeah. And so certainly with grief, we have that kind of situation where there are certain places or certain things or songs or whatnot that can really trigger us. And so sometimes it's wise to kind of watch that and be careful with that. Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about the feelings, because one of the things I've learned this year is that when we have thoughts, those thoughts then produce feelings. So if my avoider saboteur is feeding me thoughts, I'm going to start to have feelings that are going to emerge. And some of the feelings are just, well, I'm just going to be cool and calm, but also that might be what people see, but underneath, there's going to be anxiety about what I have been avoiding and what I have been procrastinating about. Okay, there's going to be anxiety, even if it's now out front. It's kind of like a program on your computer that's running in the background. It's taking up resources, even though it's not in front of the screen. And so there is going to be a fear about the hard-won peace of mine being interrupted. So if I'm trying to avoid things, I'm going to have a fear that this peace of mind that I have is going to be interrupted by other things. And so this is like a fear-based way of dealing with life. And if I suppress my anger and resentment rather than express it, that's going to be a feeling that is going to get pressed down and then come out again at another time. So do you ever find yourself feeling anxious about something that you've put off for too long? Or maybe you started realizing that avoiding an issue hasn't made it go away, but has actually made it worse. If that's something that resonates with you, drop me a note there in the chat. Okay, got an oh yes, so definitely. All right, so you're tracking with me here. Now, every saboteur has to have a justification lie. They have to justify why they're doing what they're doing to try to help you. So here are the justification lies of the avoider. You are a good person to spare other people's feelings. No good comes out of conflict. And it's good to be flexible. Someone needs to be the peacemaker. So these are the justification lies that your avoider saboteur is going to tell you to get you to avoid things. So we want to break that lie tonight. We want to ask God to show us what is really true here. And so these are all justifications that the avoider uses, and they keep us stuck. Flexibility and peace are important, but not at the cost of avoiding crucial parts of life, things that we should not be avoiding. Now, and what we have to realize is that our avoidance has an impact on us, and it has an impact on the people in our lives around us. So if we are denying the conflicts and we're denying the negativities that do exist, it's going to prevent me from actually working with them and letting God turn them into gifts for me. Right? If I don't deal with negative things, if I don't deal with conflict, then how is God going to work through those things to grow me into the image of Christ? Next, feeling numb to pain is different than knowing how to harvest the wisdom and the power of pain. So I know for 9 years, I tried to numb myself. I didn't really know that's what I was doing, but because I numbed myself, I wasn't gaining wisdom and I wasn't letting God comfort me, right? So that's what we have to realize with the avoider, that we're actually missing out on the wisdom of God, the growth that he wants for us, and being able to harvest the power of the painful things in our life when God wants to work in and through them. The Apostle Paul found it that, he asked God to get rid of his thorn in the flesh, and God said no 3 times. And Paul said, well, I'm going to receive from you, Lord, that you're telling me that your grace is going to be sufficient for me. And so he gained wisdom and knowledge in that situation. So when we find that what we avoid doesn't go away, it actually festers. So it's like we take this stuff and we put it behind a wall. And what happens is that stuff starts to smell behind the wall because it gets stale and old, and it starts to smell, and people start to notice by our actions that there's really something going on underneath the surface, even though we tried to put it behind a wall. Relationships will then be kept superficial because we're really avoiding having difficult conversations with people. So our relationships are going to stay more superficial. We're not going to get to that depth. And then the other thing is that other people's trust level is going to be reduced with us because they're not sure when we're holding back negative information, when we're withholding from them, because we withhold so much and we avoid dealing with conflict so much with people. They don't know when we're doing that. And so their trust level with us will be lower. So I want you to think about a time when you avoided a tough conversation and that actually caused more harm than good in the relationship. I wonder, how did that impact the trust between you and the other person? If you're willing to write a sentence or so in the chat about that. If you've had that experience where you avoided a tough conversation and it harmed a relationship, how did that impact the trust between you and that other person? Yeah, someone said here earlier about something we said earlier, that sometimes a lack of time might prevent us from doing something that we might have done sooner. And it does make us anxious that we're not getting to that thing as quickly as we'd like to. Sure. Okay. Anybody want to write something about the impact of trust with other people? Yeah. Okay. So sometimes someone said here, with my ex-wife, I didn't address what I felt as hurts, and that grew in distrust of her. It broke the trust in the relationship when I avoided conflict. Okay. I avoided tough conversations with my roommates and it ended poorly. We ended up having a lot of distrust with one another. Okay, so you all know about the impact of this kind of thing, it sounds like. Let's move on to the impact of childhood, because this is where a lot of this stuff originates for a lot of us. The avoider could be reinforced in a happy home, if that's where you came from, or a difficult childhood. So in a happy childhood, one of us might not have learned the resilience of dealing with difficult emotions because things were pretty good and we didn't have that much to deal with. And so we may end up avoiding things now because we don't live in that happy home that we lived in before. Now we're in this big, scary world. In a childhood where you have a lot of conflict and a lot of tension, that avoider might come into play as a peacemaker and learn not to add any negativity or tension of our own on top of what is already going with our existing family tensions. So if you grow up in a family where there was a lot of tension, then maybe you're going to avoid, because you don't want to add anything to the fire, right? You want to kind of play it cool and not add any drama to the family. So But here, as adults now, what happens is we see that these patterns are persisting, even though we're not in that family of origin anymore. We're not living with mom and dad anymore. Avoiding these hard emotions is keeping us from growing. And that's why it's so important to learn how to face these challenges that we're looking at tonight. All right. So, one really helpful thing for us would be, now that we've unpacked a little bit of this avoider, is to talk about how to quiet this saboteur, because it can be really loud in a big way or in a more subtle way. It can take up a lot of space in the house of your life. So the good news is that our brain can be trained to stop avoiding and start facing challenges, and to do that with clarity and confidence. And so I'm going to show you what we call PQ reps. PQ is short for positive intelligence. And so these are positive intelligence reps, or PQ reps. They're mental fitness exercises that are designed to build the muscle of your brain so that you can face tough situations. You can quiet this negative saboteur voice. You can engage with the wiser, more peaceful parts of your brain, and you can connect with the power of the Holy Spirit and the mind of Christ if you're able to quiet this saboteur. So I love these exercises also because they force me to be still. And the Bible tells me to be still and to know that God is God. So we're going to be still for a few minutes together. I'm going to show you how this works. So let's take a moment and let's feel the weight of your feet on the floor, first of all. Feel the weight of your feet on the floor. Feel the weight of your body in your chair if you're sitting. If you want to change your posture and sit up a little bit straighter, you can do that. Or get more comfortable. And take a couple of deep breaths, deeper than you normally do. And as you do that, I want you to notice the rising and the falling of your chest and your stomach as you take those breaths. Now, I want you to let your breathing go back to its regular rhythm and pace. And as you breathe in, I want you to notice the temperature of air as it enters into your nostrils. And then as you breathe out, notice the temperature of air as it exits your nostrils. Notice if the temperature is different when you inhale and when you exhale. You may notice the sensations in your nostrils will change when you breathe in and when you breathe out. Now let go of any thoughts as you may have. Any thoughts that you may have, just let them go and just refocus back on these physical sensations of your body. Now I want you to rub a couple of fingertips together. And as you rub those fingertips together, I want you to notice the fingertip ridges on those fingertips. The Bible tells us that we've been wonderfully and fearfully made, and our soul knows that. So as you rub those fingertips together, just notice that God made you uniquely. No one else has those finger pads. Notice any texture changes from one area to another. And then place all the finger pads of one hand onto the finger pads and then the palm of your other hand. And as you rub them gently together, be fascinated about all the sensations of touch that you'll feel with your hands. These are the hands that God has given you to do his work in this world. Now, I want you to listen for some sounds. Listen for the sounds that are the farthest away, maybe some cars on the road or someone making noise in a distant part of the house. Notice those faraway sounds. Now notice the sounds that are the closest to you, maybe the sound of your own breathing. All right. Before we finish, notice the rising and the falling of your chest and your stomach with each breath. Once again. All right. Now, do me a favor and just drop me a note in the chat to let me know what do you notice happening with your body the last couple of minutes? What do you notice while you were doing that? How does your body feel? What is your emotional mindset? I feel relaxed and sleepy. I feel more settled and grounded. What else? Feel very relaxed. Good. Okay. I want you to notice how your mind started to quiet down and how you may have started to sharpen your focus a little bit. Okay. All those things I asked you to do helped you to be in the present moment. Now, maybe you weren't able to do it 100%. Maybe your mind wandered around half the time. That's pretty normal for most of us. Um, But this is one example of how a mental fitness rep or a PQ rep like this can help you be still. And by doing these on a regular basis, you can start to train your mind to stop the avoider in its tracks and then help you to take clear, confident action to do the things that God wills for you to do. So it takes daily practice, I'd say, but this is how you can start to dismantle the avoider saboteur and to become more present, to be more courageous, and to be more at peace. And I know last night I led a meeting from 7:30 to 8:30, and we did some exercises like this. And I was dealing with a big decision that I had to make, that I needed to make like within the next day or two. And I just realized today that I didn't avoid it. I did a couple of things I needed to do to gather some information. And I realized this afternoon it was a big, big thing in my life. But I just made a phone call and told the person to move forward with the thing that we needed to move forward with. And I realized, wow, that was a very different experience than I've experienced in the past because of the things that these kinds of things that I've learned to do, and the Lord is helping me not to avoid things the way that I used to. So it's been great progress for me. So I'd love to answer any questions, and I'd love to hear some comments about what we've talked about tonight. So again, I'm going to be the only video, and the slides and myself are going to be the only thing that we're broadcasting. But we are broadcasting this onto Facebook, so our friends there can see it. So if you want to come and share on audio, you're welcome to, or you can drop something in the chat if you want. If you have a question about what was said tonight, or if you want to make a comment, you can either do that in the chat, or you can raise your hand and we can get you unmuted. What questions or comments might you have? Any questions at all? Any comments? Okay, so I see one coming in. Are the PQ reps the only way of dismantling the saboteur? Well, I would say that without doing those kinds of activities that I just showed you, it's going to be hard to dismantle any of the saboteurs without that, because those exercises are sort of the building blocks of other things. So if you want to meditate, or if you want to read scripture and get anything out of it, or if you want to pray, you're going to need to be first in the present moment, and you're going to need to be embodying your body. Your eyes are going to have to be tuned in. Your ears are going to have to be tuned in. Your sense of touch is going to have to be tuned in. So in order to really do anything in this world, do God's will in this world, we need our body, and we need our body to be online. And those PQ reps are the fastest way that we know. They really usually only take about 10 seconds to really fire up the thriving part of our brain and to quiet the saboteur survival part of our brain. So there are other body-based things or other things that you can do to quiet that saboteur region in, but most of them are going to require being in the present moment and connecting with your body first. So yeah. One person saying, I've made progress forward by keeping up with doing these reps every day, and I'm happy to share how I was able to take action on something that I've been avoiding at work. Great. So if you want to do that, we can have you unmute, or you're welcome to just put it into the chat, whatever would be the best for you. So I'll hit the button to ask you to unmute if you want to, or if you just want to type it out into the chat, feel free to do that.
Oh, hey, no, I was thinking it'd be easier to talk, but I couldn't find the button to unmute myself. So here we go. Yes. So just for context, I have been trying to get clarity on God's will in my vocation right now. And so for months, I have been just avoiding having this conversation with basically the commander of our clinic. I've just found ways to not be available and be busy when she's come by to talk to me. But today we finally connected because I was able to stay focused and not distracted, and get in there to meet with her. And so what's come of that is I'm going to have an opportunity to teach mindset to the clinic. And that's kind of a cool thing, because it's been adversely affecting our efficiency and our workflow, as we know avoiding things can do. And so she's giving me an opportunity to share, basically. So I'll be able to share some of this PQ stuff with the clinic and help build their mindset so we can be more efficient.
Great. Great. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah. All right. Someone's saying that we briefly mentioned triggers, and triggers can turn into emotional flashbacks. Absolutely. Often, whenever a flashback occurs, I'm not able to really think clearly, or am not in a situation that's easy to get away. Or what is the quickest way to silencing the flashback? Are the PQ reps the way to silence this? Yes. So a flashback is going to take us back in time. And so I have an old tape back here, right? And a lot of us have old tapes that run in the background of our lives. Sometimes we know what's happening, sometimes we don't know what's happening. But a flashback is going to take us back to the past. So the PQ reps can really help us get into the present and out of the old memory. Now, what I like to say is our ability to be able to do the PQ reps is going to be based on how often we have been doing them. So like when I go to the gym, I'm not able to bench press 500 pounds because I haven't bench pressed 400 yet. I haven't benched 300 yet. I haven't benched 200 yet, right? So I have to work my way up. So whether or not the PQ reps will be able to stop a particular flashback may be contingent on how much we have been doing PQ reps before that moment, because we have to build up our brain muscle to be able to handle things that are bigger, like a flashback. So what I usually encourage people to do is try to do those exercises, or ones that you make up yourself, because they're all body-based. You can make them up, right? You can look at something in your room, look at it without judging it, look at all the colors and the textures and all that. You can taste stuff when you're eating, slowly taste all the spices. So you can use all these senses and get yourself in the present moment and pay attention to these things. And if you do that about 15 minutes a day, it takes about 6 to 8 weeks, but you'll actually build new neural pathways in your brain. So what the saboteurs are is they are neural pathways in our brain. We have walked down these paths so often that we just do it automatically now. So what we're doing when we do these PQ reps is that we're building new neural pathways to being in the present moment. And that's what's going to help us with things like the Avoider Saboteur or any other saboteur. So the more you do this on a daily basis, the better chance you'll have of dealing with a flashback, of being able to stop the flashback by embodying your body, getting back into your body. Yeah. So this is like, if you're in a counselor's office and you have a flashback, these are some of the things that a counselor will tell you to do. Look around the room. Tell me how many colors you see. Tell me what the colors are. Like, what's your name? Do you have a license in your purse? What kind of car do you drive? They're going to ask you questions and try to get you back into the present moment. Yeah, to help ground you. Great question. What other questions or comments do you have about the avoider, or the PQ reps that we did, or the saboteurs in general? Okay. Well, let me show you something that may be hopeful for you. And that is what happened with my assessment score. So after 6 weeks of doing those exercises I just showed you, doing them about 15 minutes a day, and doing a program that helped me learn more about my saboteurs and more about depending on God to help me to deal with them, this is what I found, is that my score changed over just 6 weeks, where my brain was starting to serve me, my thriving brain serving me about 71% of the time, and only sabotaging me 29% of the time. And what happened was my mind was a lot more clear. I felt much more in my body. I wasn't stuck in my head as much as I had been before. And I was able to make decisions with more confidence, like a decision I had to make today. That's the genesis of that started over a year ago when I started this whole thing. And I started to feel closer to God than I had before. And I started to feel more peaceful. As you can imagine how peaceful you felt when we did those 2 minutes of those exercises. When you do 15 minutes of those a day, it has a big effect on you. And I was working on a project for 2 years. The project was only supposed to take 1 year, and I was into year 2. I was at the end of year 2, and I still wasn't done. And I spent over $10,000 on this project, and I had a couple of pages of a website to show for it, but I was not helping anybody with this project that was supposed to, in the end, help people. During the 6 weeks of practice of doing these exercises and being in the PQ program, God showed me what to do, and I could actually clearly hear his voice telling me what steps to take next. And I completed that project because of what happened with me in that 6 weeks. And I've done that project 8 times since last year because of what happened for me in that program. And so I wanted to show you my friend Marlena, because she did this with me the first time I did it. And she said, I find myself happy most of the time now. Well, let me give you the backstory to what happened with her. She got a 40. She only had access to her thriving brain 40% of the time. That meant that 60% of the time she was in that survival brain saboteur area. She went from 40% access in her thriving brain to 80% access to her thriving brain in just 6 weeks. So she had 100% boost in her mental fitness. And after there's another person that I met, and after I did a workshop, she came up to me and she couldn't like form sentences. She was so upset and beaten down with depression. She told me she tried everything, and things were so bad as I was talking to her. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to help her. But she did the 7-week program with me because I added an extra week to the program that I did. I added a 7th week to it. And I wanted to show you an email that she sent me a little while ago. She said, at my yearly physical on Friday, I passed the mental health screening for the first time in at least 6 years. Some of my answers were not at all when they used to be almost all the time. Questions like, how often do you find yourself unable to control your negative thoughts? She had to say before that she was having a lot of trouble, but now she was able to say that she's able to control her negative thoughts now. So she wrote a hooray in there. All right. So this is some of the people that I've worked with this past year and what their results have been. So I want to take a moment and I want to pray for you. And then if you want to know more about what I call the Unlocking Mental Fitness program that I created, built on top of the same program that I went through myself and that Marlena went through and that this person went through. If you want to learn more about that, you can just stick around on the call after I'm done with the prayer, and I'll tell you about it. It'll only take me about 10 minutes or so, maybe 7 minutes. All right. So let's take a moment and pray. Father, thank you for my friends who joined me for this meeting tonight. Thank you that you've given them everything that they need for life and godliness. And I pray because you have furnished them and equipped them with all that they need, I thank you, Lord, that your Holy Spirit lives in their bodies and that you want them to be more connected to their bodies. So I pray for these little simple exercises they learned tonight, that these exercises might help them deal with the avoider or whatever other saboteurs they might have working in their lives right now. They would help to quiet that survival brain so that they can be more in tune with your spirit and with the mind of Christ. So straighten the path, Lord, to them becoming more mentally fit so they can deal with the grief or the trauma, or that they might be able to walk toward those goals that you have for them, that you want for them to accomplish. I pray in Jesus' name. Amen. If you've already done the program with me and you're going to head out, I want to thank you for being here tonight. And if you've already heard about the Unlocking Mental Fitness program and you're headed out, God bless you. Hope to see you back on our next webinar in the coming days. And if you want to know more about the Unlocking Mental Fitness program, just stick around for a few minutes. I'll tell you all about it. And then if you're interested, we'll tell you how to, we'll tell you what you can do to find out more about it after tonight. Great. God bless you for those who are headed out. If you're sticking around, one of the things I want to say is that a lot of people hear this kind of webinar and they think, okay, I'm going to go do those things that Vinny talked about to quiet my saboteur. But what I found is that most of us have a really difficult time doing this on our own. And so that's why we created this group program, because when we do this in a group, we get about a 500% better return on our investment, a 500% better result when we do it in community. And I'll say, you know, I showed you Marlena there. Marlena, I did this program with her and a few other people, and every time Marlena was doing her daily check-in, it would pop up on my phone and I'd see it. And that was motivation that reminded me that I needed to get on the ball to do the stuff that I was supposed to do in the mental fitness program. And so that's why I think we get such a benefit of doing this in a group. I want to show you one more thing that someone said, someone who recently did the group with me, the last group I did. This person said, so much to praise and celebrate, rejoicing in pain that draws me close to God. She's talking about him. The continued healing of my PTSD, standing up for myself with family members that bully me, the times of waiting that bore so much fruit, praising because it is a powerful way to glorify God, seeing me as God created me is priceless. And that's something that someone wrote after the 7-week program with us. So I wanted you to see that, the effects of it. So with the Unlocking Mental Fitness program, what we do is we give you 1 year access to an app. And that app is going to guide you through the first 7 weeks with us. And then it's going to continue on for a year to be available to you. The value of that app, and actually how much the app costs if you buy it from the company that we're connected with, is $9.95. So that's kind of the value that you're going to get from that app. It's going to guide you through daily exercises. So you get that 15 minutes of exercise every day that I was talking about for your brain. It's going to give you reflections and activities to help build your mental fitness in just 15 minutes a day, but in 2 or 3 minute increments. So it's something that anybody can do because we're only asking you for 2 or 3 minutes at a time. Think about this as your daily companion for mental fitness. It's available to help you stay on track. And we're going to give you 2 or 3 coach challenges every day within the app. Very simple things you can do in just a few minutes. We're also going to give you daily coaching in the app. And I'm the one who coaches people in this program. So I'll be in there daily checking on what you're saying and giving you feedback and encouraging you and helping you. If people had to pay for that time, that'd be, $2,500 or something, because it's 7 weeks and it's every day. I'm in there every day helping people. So imagine having personalized tips and support and encouragement every single day from me to help keep you accountable and help you overcome obstacles. I want to make sure that you're never feeling alone on the journey. And so that's what the daily coaching is about. Then there's the weekly coaching sessions, which is about a value of about $1,200. And here we're going deeper into the concepts. We're sharing insights and we're holding each other accountable to what goals we have determined we want to reach for ourselves. So you'll have the opportunity to connect with other people in my group who are on the same journey as you, and then get personalized feedback in a supportive environment with me each week in a weekly coaching sessions that we do. And then we have 2 assessments that we give you. One is called the Saboteur Assessment, and the other one is called the PQ Assessment. And so these 2 assessments, the Saboteur Assessment is going to show you exactly what's getting in your way from reaching your goals and doing what God wants you to do. And then the PQ Assessment is going to show you how much you're in your survival brain versus your thriving brain. Right? So that's really important to do at the beginning of the program and then at the end, so you can see if this has made any difference for you. These are going to give you the insights into the mental blocks that are holding you back and help keep you on track on your progress throughout the program. So this is an eye-opening way to see exactly where you are now and where you'll be by the end of the program. And then we have a PDF of the best-selling book that we're going to send you called Positive Intelligence. And we're also going to send you the audiobook version. If you'd rather listen to it, you can listen to it. If you want to read it, you can read it. If you want to do both, you can do that as well. And these are going to help reinforce the concepts that we covered during the program and let you revisit and get a refresher on it anytime that you want. And then we have our small group community. I usually have between 8 to 12 people who do this group with me each time I do it. And that's the small group. And then we're also going to give you access to the larger PQ community. So anyone who's doing the program at the same time we are, no matter where they are in the world, there may be hundreds or thousands of people doing it at the same time. I think millions of people have now gone through the program. You'll have access to a larger group of people as well. So if you want to read what they're saying, you want to say something in a larger community and interact with people there, you're able to do that as well. It's important to have others walking this journey with you, sharing your wins and getting support when things get tough. So this community will help you stay motivated and connected as you work towards your goal. And then the last thing I'd say is, like, if we total all that up, all of that, we put about $5,000 of our own time and energy into this group each time we do it. Don't worry, we're not going to ask you to pay that much. That's just how much it costs us to deliver it to you. My goal is to make this program as accessible to as many people as possible. So I want you to think about this like a brake job. If your car's brakes went out, you'd probably bring it to the mechanic right away, right? You'd have it towed there. If your car's transmission broke, if you really like that car, you'd get it towed to the mechanic and you'd have a new transmission placed on it. Think about your brain and how it needs a brake job, because we have all these thoughts and feelings that are getting in the way, and we got to put the brakes to that stuff. And that's what we show you how to do in this program. And then you have the thriving part of your brain, which helps you get things done, which helps you move forward in life and do what God has for you. And that part of your brain, you need to know, what are the 5 gears of the transmission of the thriving part of your brain? I didn't even know what they were before I did this program. Now I know exactly what they are, and I know how to use them. I know how to shift into those gears. And so that's what we're going to do for you. We're going to begin this process of fixing the brakes and giving you a new transmission. And this is feeling really fresh for me, because today I actually had to pull the trigger on getting a new transmission for my car. So if you got a new transmission on your car, I'll tell you right now, it's going to cost you $5,000, right? And if you also did a brake job, that's going to cost a couple $1,000s. So I want to tell you, you are more important than your car. Getting things working with the brakes and the transmission of your brain is more important than even your car. So let me tell you the logistics of this. This is a 7-week program. The next time we do it starts on November the 4th, and it ends on December the 16th. So it will last for 7 weeks, 7 Mondays in a row. And we do it at Mondays at 6:30 Eastern Standard Time. If you miss a meeting, we'll record it for you and we'll send it to you so you can watch it afterwards. The total cost for that 7-week group program is $995. And so if you're ready for this, I'd say don't wait, because we only have a handful of spots. So you'll want to secure that spot as soon as possible. If you're feeling led to join the program, but you're worried about the financial commitment, don't let that hold you back. Reach out to me. We have some options available to make this available to you. I'm happy to work with you to make that possible. So you got the QR code there on the screen. You can take a picture of that QR code with your phone. It'll take you to our website. You can go down to the bottom of the page if you're ready to go and sign up for the program, to sign up at the bottom of that page. Or you can reach out to me through the chat or through the Facebook comment there. Just reach out to me and we'll connect through a direct message if you have questions or you want to talk about getting signed up for this. So feel free to share that code with other people. It'll take you to a website where we have an unlocking mental fitness webinar that I've done, much like this one. That's at checkyourcompass.org/unlock. You can share that with as many people as you want, because they can benefit from a similar talk that I gave just about mental fitness in general there on that page. So